Good morning and a very good morning and welcome back to this course of microwave engineering. So in today's lecture we are going to see the measurement procedure from module number 5, and today we are going to see the theoretical arrangement of the measurement of quality factor of a particular given circuit, and thereafterwards we are going to see how to calculate the unknown dielectric constant of a given sample material. So in today's lecture we will devote our time to the measurement procedure of quality factor of a particular given circuit or a device, and thereafterwards we will see a procedure to measure the dielectric constant of a given dielectric sample material. So let us go ahead with the theoretical development. So first of all, we will see a procedure to measure the quality factor of a given particular circuit. Okay, so first of all, we should understand what is the meaning of a quality factor and the basic associated with a quality factor, right? So normally the quality factor is expressed as the amount of energy stored in a particular given circuit divided by the amount of energy dissipated per unit cycle. Okay, so let us begin with measurement procedure of quality factor. So I will start from here. Measurement of quality factor. Quality factor is one of the parameter which is popularly utilized in order to measure the performance of certain typical circuits. The quality factor is a measure of selectivity of a particular given network or the device, right? So quality factor in general, it is given as quality factor. It is denoted by Q, quality factor. It is denoted as Q, or sometimes it is also known as an unloaded quality factor. So in general it is given as 2 pi multiplied by energy stored divided by energy dissipated per unit cycle, divided by energy dissipated. So this is a simple equation to calculate quality factor of a given circuit or a given device, right? So the quality factor indicates the ability of the circuit or the ability of the device in order to store the energy. The energy is stored by that particular device or circuit in the form of reactive field, right? So we already know that the impedance consists of a two parts, real part and imaginary part, and the imaginary part is mainly responsible in order to store the energy either in the form of the inductive energy or capacitive energy, right? So the reactance presence in the impedance is only the responsible for storing of the energy by that particular network or by that particular device. And coming to the real part of the impedance, that is the resistance. The resistance is not going to store the energy, but whenever the energy is incident on the resistance, it will get dissipated and it will produce a heat, right? So actually the quality factor is the measure of how well a particular given circuit or a device is able to store the energy either in the form of an inductive energy or a capacitive energy, right? So quality factor for certain devices and for certain circuit is very high in comparison to the other devices. For example, the examples of, I will write over here, examples of high quality factor circuit or devices. So the best example of high quality factor circuits are resonator circuits. Okay, and these resonator circuits are constructed using cavities. Right, we already know what is meant by cavity, and we saw a special type of a cavity, that is a re-entrant cavity. So special cavities are used. We already know what is a re-entrant cavity when we studied the resonator topic in module number 2, special resonant cavities. Okay, now this special resonant cavities, we normally call it as a re-entrant type of cavities. Okay, and the resonators are the basic building blocks used for design of oscillators. Okay, so a high quality factor resonator is the main basic building block for a microwave oscillator circuit, right? So microwave oscillators, they have to possess the resonant cavity, okay, or the resonant circuit, and whenever there is a resonant circuit or resonant cavity, the quality factor is going to be associated, right? So the quality factor for these kind of a devices, especially for the resonant circuit or resonant devices, is very high. Okay, so the graph of quality factor with respect to frequency is, I am going to draw now. So on the vertical axis I will plot the quality factor, and on the horizontal axis I will plot the frequency. So Q indicates the quality factor. Okay, and when we plot the quality factor plot with respect to operation frequency of a particular resonator circuit, we will get this kind of a response, a bell-shaped response, right? So here at a particular frequency of operation, the value of a quality factor is maximum. So here it is a maximum. Okay, so the frequency at which the quality factor is highest, we call it as a resonant frequency. Okay, so F0 over here, where the quality factor is very high, so this is called as a resonant frequency of that resonator. This is called as a resonant frequency. Okay, so if we come 3 dB down to this particular frequency, okay, so if we come down 3 dB, okay, so if we take the 3 dB down value of this particular curve, okay, so these two frequency point at which the lower 3 dB and upper 3 dB point we get at say F1 and F2. Okay, so delta F, we call it as a bandwidth. Okay, and this delta F is equal to absolute difference between these two frequencies, where F1 and F2 are the 3 dB frequencies of the frequency response of the resonator circuit, right? So here we understand that whenever resonance will happen, at that time the resonator is able to store highest amount of energy, and at that time the quality factor value is going to be very, very high, right? So the typical quality factor values of a resonator circuit varies a very high value, maybe a few hundreds of quality factor value to even 10,000 and 20,000. So such a large value of a quality factor is getting possessed by this resonator circuit, right? So here the quality factor we define in terms of unloaded quality factor. Okay, so basically the loaded quality factor we can give, the loaded quality factor is given by QL, we call it as a loaded quality factor. Now what is loaded quality factor? Loaded quality factor is the quality factor provided by the resonator circuit when it is loaded with certain load or when it is used in certain circuit. Loaded quality factor. So how it is given? It is simply given as the resonating frequency divided by the bandwidth delta f. Okay, remember that the bandwidth delta f is very small. As the bandwidth delta f is very small, the value of loaded quality factor tend to become very high, right? So here we will now see the procedure to measure the quality factor of a given resonator circuit, right? So in order to measure the quality factor of the resonator circuit, we need to arrange the laboratory setup. Okay, again, as we already discussed, we are going to make use of inexpensive laboratory setup where we are going to make use of a reflectron tube as a source of a microwave, and typically we are going to make use of that waveguide test bench setup in order to measure the quality factor of a given resonant circuit. Okay, so first of all, I will draw the setup of measurement, or I will call it as a measurement setup. Measurement setup for quality factor. Okay, so again it is a common block diagram. Okay, so first we are going to make use of a microwave source. Okay, so here we use a microwave source and it is a reflectron tube. Okay, the second block is very obvious and important, and that is the isolator block. Okay, and then we will make use of a frequency meter. Frequency meter. After frequency meter, we will place variable attenuator. So this setup is very common and standard in all the measurement procedure. Variable attenuator. Okay, and then we will place a slotted waveguide section. Okay, so this is slotted waveguide in order to facilitate the measurement procedure. Okay, and at the end of this slotted waveguide section, we will place the resonator circuit. Okay, so this is the resonator circuit whose quality factor we want to measure. So this is a resonator circuit. Okay, or this is also known as a device under test whose quality factor we want to measure. The slotted waveguide section is then connected to the detector probe in this way. Okay, so here we have the detector probe. And finally, this detector probe is connected to the output device. This output device we can make use of either a VSWR meter or a simple CRO. So here I write output device. This output device you can make use of either CRO or VSWR meter. Okay, now connect these blocks of measurement. Microwave source first connected to isolator, then connected to frequency meter, then it is given to the variable attenuator. Now from variable attenuator, it will go to the slotted waveguide section, right? This slotted waveguide section is connected to the detector, and the other end of the slotted waveguide section is connected to the resonator circuit whose quality factor we want to measure, or we call it as a device under test, right? And finally, this detector is connected to the output device, where we can either make use of a CRO or the VSWR meter. Okay, so this is a typical measurement setup procedure in order to facilitate the measurement of the quality factor, right? So here, first of all, we will establish the measurement procedure for the quality factor, right? So let us say this is a resonator circuit. I will draw it over here. We'll come back to this block diagram working. So here, if this is a resonator, okay, so this is a resonator circuit. If this resonator circuit is supplied with certain input power, okay, and this input power has a certain frequency such that it matches with the resonating frequency of this resonator, then we will get certain output PO. Okay, now here we are going to define transmission loss. Okay, so the transmission loss over here for this particular resonator circuit is given by, please remember, transmission loss is also known as a attenuation loss. So this transmission loss is given at resonating frequency F0, and it is simply given as ratio of output power to the input power. Okay, now unloaded quality factor. So here we should have the relationship of quality factor, unloaded quality factor rather. So how it is given? The unloaded quality factor Q0 is given in terms of loaded quality factor, which is given by QL into bracket 1 plus beta 1 plus beta 2. Okay, so remember, this is the main equation to calculate the unloaded quality factor of the resonator circuit, where QL is the loaded quality factor, and here beta 1 we call it as a input coupling factor of cavity resonator. We are making use of a cavity resonator, please remember. And similarly, beta 2 is the output coupling factor of resonator. So these coupling factors of the resonator, they are expressed in terms of voltage standing wave ratio at the resonance. Okay, so beta 1 input coupling factor, it is expressed in terms of voltage standing wave ratio at resonance, and it is given by 4 divided by 4s minus s plus 1 whole square into transmission loss at resonance. Okay, so where S is VSWR at resonant or at resonance of resonator. Okay, so where S is what? S is the measured value of voltage standing wave ratio that will take place at the resonating frequency. Okay, so at the resonating frequency, that means at F0. Okay, now similarly, the value of output coupling factor, that is beta 2, how it is given? Beta 2, the equation is beta 1 into S minus 1. Okay, so please remember here, the output unloaded quality factor is given in terms of loaded quality factor by incorporating the input and output coupling factors. The input and output coupling factors are given by beta 1 and beta 2. Okay, so let us say, if I will change the color, say now if Z in, which is represented as R plus or minus certain Jx, represents input impedance of cavity resonator okay. So what is a Z-in? Z-in is representing input impedance offered by that cavity resonator. Then VSWR is given by VSWR is given by Z-in divided by Z0, right? Z-in divided by Z0. The input impedance consists of two parts, real part resistance and imaginary part reactance divided by Z0. Okay. Now what will happen at the resonance? At resonance, what will happen? At the resonance means if the operating frequency matches with the natural resonating frequency of the resonator, at that time the reactive effect will get cancelled out and the circuit will become purely resistive. So at resonance, the reactance of resonator becomes 0 and write that X becomes 0. Okay. Therefore, the VSWR, or simply we can call it as a S, will become R divided by Z0, as reactance is equal to 0 at resonance. Okay. So whenever resonance will happen, the reactance part will become 0, and as reactance part becomes 0, the VSWR is simply given by the ratio of resistance offered by the cavity to the characteristic impedance. Okay. So what is the procedure to measure the unloaded quality factor? We now established the relationship. Now we will make use of this particular setup in order to measure the quality factor, right? So first step, I will write over here, step number 1, we are going to make use of above arrangement. So in step number 1, we measure VSWR at half power frequencies. Okay. Okay. So at half power frequency, we will measure the VSWR. Okay. So at half power frequency means, first of all, try to get maximum output shown by either CRO or the VSWR. Okay. Then what you do is you move the slotted waveguide section such that the output start falling down as it is shown on the VSWR curve or on the CRO as a voltage form. Okay. So what we do is we will start moving on the slotted waveguide section in order to find out the drop of the voltage. Okay. So first of all, we will measure the maximum voltage. Okay. And then we will start moving on the slotted waveguide section towards the generator in order to find out reduction in the voltage. Okay. So when the reduction in the voltage will take place exactly at the half, we will measure the frequency. Okay. We already know how to measure the frequency with the help of the frequency meter. So the frequency meter is used to measure the half power frequency. So once we know these two frequencies, F1 and F2, we are going to measure. Okay. So in order to measure F1 and F2, first of all, we will let the resonator to resonate at its natural resonant frequency. Okay. Once we get maximum output displayed on the CRO in the form of a voltage, so what we do is we will start moving on the slotted waveguide section on that either side of the point in order to get reduction in the voltage exactly to the half value of the value which is given earlier. Now at that point, we will detune the frequency meter in order to observe the dip on the CRO. Now that particular frequency we are going to calculate as the half power frequencies of the resonator, and these half power frequencies of the resonator are given by F1 and F2, and from this we will take the absolute difference between these frequencies, and this absolute difference of these two frequencies will give us the desired bandwidth. Okay, so that is a delta F. So delta F is obtained in this particular way. Okay, so in step number 2, what we do is we will measure the natural resonating frequency. In step number 2, we measure natural resonating frequency of resonator. Okay, and this is a very common and straightforward procedure. We can directly measure the F0. Okay, so we know F0, we know delta F. Now in step 3, we determine the loaded quality factor. Loaded quality factor. So how the loaded quality factor is measured? QL is equal to resonating frequency divided by delta F. Okay. In the 4th step, we will measure VSWR. So what we do is we will replace the oscilloscope with the VSWR and we measure VSWR. VSWR can be directly measured by placing the VSWR meter, replacing the CRO at resonance, and this VSWR is denoted as a S. Okay, so we know the VSWR value, we know the value of loaded quality factor. Now from the obtained value of VSWR, we can calculate now the coupling coefficients. Okay, so for coupling coefficient, again you need to find out the transmission loss. Okay, so this transmission loss is measured by taking the ratio of powers. So in step number 5, we find ratios of power. So this ratio of power, output power divided by input power. So we already know a measurement procedure of the power. Okay, so what to do is we already know the input power with which the cavity resonator is excited. So P in is already known. So we need to place the power sensor at the output and measure output power. It is measured at output. Okay, once we know what is output power, take the output power divided by input known power, we will get a transmission loss. Okay, so we know the transmission loss, we know the standing wave ratio. Now from these information we will calculate the coupling factors. So in step number 6, we calculate coupling factors. And these coupling factors are beta 1 and beta 2. So we know the coupling factors beta 1 and beta 2. We know the loaded quality factor QL. Now all these values we can substitute in this particular equation, and then we can calculate the unloaded quality factor. Okay, so this is a typical procedure to measure the quality factor of a given resonator circuit. Now please remember over here that the measurement procedure of the quality factor for a given resonator circuit is a lengthy procedure, right? First of all, we need to know what is the exact amount of input power with which the resonator is excited, and then we will make suitable arrangement to measure the output power. Once we know the output power, we can calculate the transmission loss, right? The next job over here is to measure the standing wave ratio at the resonance. Once the standing wave ratio is obtained at the resonating frequency f0, then we can calculate the coupling factors at the input and output of that resonator. And the next task is going to come to calculate the loaded quality factor. In order to measure the loaded quality factor, first of all, we need to find out the half power frequency of the resonator response. So by knowing the half power frequencies of the resonator, we can calculate the bandwidth. So the bandwidth is known, the resonating frequency is known, we can calculate the quality factor in the loaded case. All these values are known. Quality factor, the coupling factors, you can put all these values in order to calculate the unloaded quality factor. Now remember over here that the unloaded quality factor of the resonator is always greater than loaded quality factor, right? So this is a typical procedure how to measure the quality factor of a given resonator circuit or cavity resonator device using a microwave technique, right? So we will go further and we will see now a measurement procedure of unknown dielectric constant. Okay, so next we develop a theory for the measurement of dielectric constant, or rather measurement of unknown dielectric constant. Unknown dielectric constant. Okay, now the setup, the similar type of setup we are going to make use over here. Okay, so first of all I will draw the setup of measurement of unknown dielectric constant. Okay, so the setup is similar as we have seen in the case of quality factor measurement. So here we have a microwave source again, then it is followed with the isolator device, right? So the isolator, then it is followed with a frequency meter, after frequency meter we will place variable attenuator, so this is a variable attenuator. After variable attenuator, again we are going to make use of slotted waveguide section. Please remember, slotted waveguide section is very important as far as the measurement of different microwave parameters are concerned by making use of this test bench device, slotted waveguide. Now this slotted waveguide is connected to a dielectric cell. This is a dielectric cell into which we are going to place the sample dielectric material. So this is a solid dielectric cell. Okay, and the slotted waveguide section, we have the detector probe, and finally this detector probe we are going to connect to output device, and the output device we can either make use of VSWR meter or CRO. Okay, so this is the output device. Now this output device is either CRO or VSWR meter. Okay, then we are going to connect all these components together, from micro source to isolator to frequency meter to the variable attenuator, then it is given to the slotted waveguide section, right? And then it is given to the dielectric cell. From here it is connected to detector probe, and the detector probe is finally connected to output device. Now this dielectric cell is terminated at the end with a short circuit plate. So here at the end we are going to place a short circuit plate. Short circuit plate. Okay, now this is a typical arrangement of the measurement procedure for unknown dielectric constant of the sample material. Okay, the sample material whose dielectric constant we want to measure is placed in this particular dielectric cell. Okay, so this dielectric cell is placed over here. So here we are going to place inside of this dielectric cell, sample dielectric is placed inside. Okay, and the other end of a dielectric cell is closed with a short circuit plate. Okay, so here we are going to place the dielectric material in this way, right? So this we call it as a dielectric cell. Okay, so sample dielectric place is placed inside this dielectric cell, and this is a typical setup for the measurement of dielectric constant of the given sample material. Okay, so here we need to find out parameters in the standard equation in order to calculate the dielectric constant. Okay, so the dielectric constant is calculated by evaluating the formula beta E, which is a phase shift constant, which is given by 2 pi divided by guide wavelength when the dielectric material is placed inside the waveguide. It is given by 2 pi by lambda 0, okay, square root of the dielectric constant epsilon r minus the free space wavelength divided by cutoff wavelength, whole square inside a bracket. Okay, so remember over here, this is the fundamental formula in order to calculate the dielectric constant of the sample material. Okay, so here I will denote all these parameters. So what is beta E? Beta E is the phase shift observed in microwave signal during placement of dielectric material, right? So beta E is the phase shift in the microwave signal that is observed during the placement of a dielectric material. So lambda GE is the guide wavelength when dielectric material is placed. Okay, what is lambda 0? Lambda 0 is the operating wavelength of the microwave signal. So it is C by F0, where F0 is the microwave frequency generated by the source. And lambda C is the cutoff wavelength. Okay, so lambda C is cutoff wavelength. So how this cutoff wavelength in terms of waveguide dimension is given by? This cutoff wavelength is given by 2 into A, where A is broader dimension of waveguide, right? In dominant mode. Okay, so here the unknown is the dielectric constant. So first of all, by using this particular setup arrangement, we should able to find out the operating frequency. We should be able to find out what is the cutoff frequency, and importantly, we need to find out what is the guided wavelength when the dielectric material is placed inside the dielectric cell. So when all these values are known, we can put all these values in this particular equation, and then the unknown, that is a dielectric constant, we can evaluate, right? So here, what is the procedure to measure this dielectric constant? Okay, so first of all, we already know the waveguide test bench setup. Okay, so we are using a rectangular waveguide. Now this rectangular waveguide, we are going to measure the width. Okay, so once we know the value of the width of the rectangular waveguide, we can find out the cutoff wavelength. So step number 1, I will write over here. Procedure step 1, measure waveguide dimension of the setup and find cutoff wavelength. Okay, so you can calculate cutoff wavelength once you know the broader dimension of the rectangular waveguide. Okay, so that means we will get cutoff wavelength lambda c, right? So this cutoff wavelength is then calculated. Okay, so next step number 2 is to find operating frequency. So we already know how to measure the unknown frequency. Okay, so in order to measure the unknown frequency before the placement of a dielectric material inside the dielectric cell, what we do is we will get maximum output shown on the oscilloscope. Okay, and then we will start rotating the frequency meter in order to observe the dip or the reduction in the output of the CRO. Okay, once we get the dip or the reduction in the output voltage shown at the CRO, we will stop rotating the frequency meter, and this frequency meter we can make use to directly read out the resonating frequency or the operating frequency. So find the operating frequency as usual by the method of measurement of unknown frequency, and then find out the operating wavelength. Find out operating wavelength. Okay, so once we know the operating frequency, we can find out the operating wavelength, and it is given by lambda 0. Okay, now next procedure is very important now in the step number 3, what we are going to do now is we are actually going to place a dielectric material. Now place dielectric material inside dielectric cell and short circuit the open end. Okay, so I will elaborate this particular procedure over here. Let us say this is the open cross section view of the rectangular waveguide. Now here at the end we are going to place the short circuit over here. So this is the short circuit that we are placing. I will denote it as a short circuit. Once we short circuit the open end of the rectangular waveguide, now this is a rectangular waveguide which is acting as a dielectric cell. So this is a dielectric cell. Okay, so one end of the rectangular dielectric cell is terminated with a short circuit. Okay, and here we are going to place a sample dielectric material. Okay, so here I will take some different color. Let us say this green color. I will put this green color. Now this is the dielectric material that I am going to place. Okay, so this green color indicates that I place the dielectric material inside this dielectric cell. Okay, so this is the dielectric material, right? Okay, so this is nothing but the dielectric material. Now the sample length of the dielectric material should be sufficiently large, and it should be properly placed inside the solid dielectric waveguide. Okay, and the other end of this dielectric waveguide cell has to be short circuited, right? So this is the sample length. Now this sample length of the dielectric material is indicated as LE, where LE is sample length of dielectric material, whose dielectric constant we want to measure. Okay, now we know that whenever we excite this dielectric material with the microwave signal, the microwave signal, when it comes at the short circuit terminal, the standing wave ratio will be formed. Okay, so this standing wave ratio inside this dielectric is going to form in this particular way. Okay, so this standing wave ratio is getting formed inside the dielectric cell, which is terminated at the end with a short circuit. Now here we need to measure the guide wavelength in the portion where we are getting the two minimas. Okay, so this is position number 1, where we get 0 voltage first minima, and this is the second position where we get the second minima. Remember that these two voltage minimas we are going to measure over the length of the dielectric material. Remember that the dielectric material should be sufficiently large in the length in order to find two successive minima voltage position with the help of slotted waveguide section. Okay, so the distance between two successive minima we want to find out using that slotted waveguide section, and this corresponds to the guide wavelength divided by 2, right? So here in step number 4, we measure two successive voltage minima distances, right? Say this voltage minima distances, let us say D1 we will get at the wall only, and D2 we will get over here. Okay, so the difference between D1 and D2 will provide us half of the guide wavelength. So these distances are D1 and D2. So if we take the absolute difference between these two distances, D1 and D2, which proportional to half of the guide wavelength in the dielectric. Okay, therefore guide wavelength in dielectric it is equal to lambda GE. It is given by twice into absolute difference between D1 and D2. Okay, so with the help of slotted waveguide section, you measure what is the first minima. The first minima we are going to get close to the short circuit wall, and then immediately you measure the next second minima at D2. Take the difference of these two distances and multiply it by 2, we will get guide wavelength of the signal in the dielectric material. Okay, so we know the guide wavelength over here, that is lambda GE. We already calculated what is the value of free space wavelength. We have already calculated what is the value of cutoff wavelength by taking into account the waveguide dimension. So here in this equation, to calculate the phase shift, okay, so here from this particular equation I can write 1 upon lambda GE is equal to 1 upon this free space wavelength lambda 0, right? Into bracket we have epsilon r, right, minus lambda 0 upon lambda c whole square. Okay, so we know lambda 0 is known, cutoff wavelength lambda c is also known, and just now we have calculated lambda ge, which is also known. So the only unknown in this particular equation that remains is the dielectric constant, effective dielectric constant, epsilon r. Okay, so these are known, lambda ge known, lambda 0 known, and lambda c known. So put all these values in this particular equation and find out epsilon r. Now this epsilon r, when you calculate, it indicates more or less the value of the dielectric constant of this particular sample. Okay, so epsilon r is the dielectric constant of this sample, and this particular procedure is making use of a slotted waveguide section and the dielectric waveguide cell for the measurement of dielectric constant of the given sample material. And this theory of the dielectric constant measurement is applicable to solid dielectric material. So let me make sure that dielectric constant measurement, this theory is applied for solid dielectric constant. Okay, so if we have a liquid dielectric material, at that time the container that we are going to make use, it is a different. So this procedure we saw for measurement of solid dielectric material using a dielectric cell. Okay, so in which we need to calculate three different types of wavelength: the guide wavelength when the dielectric sample is placed, the operating wavelength, and the cutoff wavelength. Once we know all these different types of wavelength, we can place these values in the generalized equation of phase shift, and then we can calculate the dielectric constant of the given material, that is epsilon r. Okay, so I hope you understood successfully how to measure the unknown dielectric constant and how to measure the unloaded quality factor of the cavity resonator circuit using more or less similar setup of laboratory based low cost equipment. Okay, so if you notice over here, in the both measurement procedure of dielectric constant and the quality factor, the setup is more or less is going to remain same, right? So this is a very popular technique, so that's why it is extensively being used in the laboratory test bench setup. Okay, as being it is a low cost in operation. So in this lecture we have successfully developed a theory to measure the quality factor of the cavity resonator circuit and the dielectric constant of sample solid dielectric material. In the next lecture we will continue our measurement procedure to measure the antenna gain and to measure the noise in the microwave circuit. Thank you very much. Thank you all.